Have you ever noticed that the more you think about something, the more it seems to show up in your life? It almost feels like the universe is eavesdropping on your thoughts and saying, "Oh, you keep thinking about this? Let me give you more of it." And that, right there, is the hidden power behind what I'm about to share with you today. What you focus on, you attract. Now, let's pause for a second. Imagine your mind like a giant magnet. Whatever you consistently think about, whether good or bad, whether hopeful or fearful, starts pulling similar experiences, people, and circumstances into your life. This isn't just spiritual talk, it's psychological, it's practical, and it's deeply connected to how our brains and emotions operate. And the more you understand it, the more control you gain over the reality you live in. Think about this. Have you ever been shopping for a new car, maybe a specific model or color, and suddenly you start noticing that exact car everywhere on the road? It's not that suddenly thousands of people bought the same car overnight. It's because your brain, once focused on something, begins to filter reality in a way where you notice more of it. That's your mind's way of saying, "Oh, you're paying attention to this. Let's make sure you keep seeing it." This is called the reticular activating system, or RAS. It's a network in your brain that acts like a spotlight, filtering through the millions of pieces of information around you and highlighting the ones that matter to you. When you focus on problems, you start seeing more problems. When you focus on opportunities, you start seeing more opportunities. Life hasn't changed. You just tuned your inner spotlight to a new frequency. But here's where it gets really interesting. What you focus on doesn't just change what you notice. It begins to change how you feel, how you act, and eventually, what results you attract. If you constantly focus on lack, on what you don't have, you'll feel more stress, more scarcity, and make decisions that keep you stuck. But when you shift your focus to abundance, gratitude, and possibility, your actions naturally align with growth, and new doors start opening for you. Neville Goddard, one of the greatest teachers of the mind, used to say, "You become what you imagine yourself to be." He understood this principle long before modern science could explain it. When you hold a thought and focus on it with feeling, you're planting a seed in your subconscious mind. And just like a seed grows into a tree, your focused thoughts grow into experiences. Now here's the key: focus is energy. And energy is magnetic. If you're focusing on negativity, complaining, comparing, doubting, you're sending out that energy and pulling more of it into your experience. But when you consciously focus on gratitude, joy, faith, and possibility, you begin to magnetize people, situations, and resources that match those emotions. Let's make this practical. If someone wakes up in the morning and the first thought they have is, "Ugh, today's going to be so stressful," their mind starts scanning for evidence to prove that belief right. The traffic feels worse, the coworkers seem more annoying, and every little inconvenience feels 10 times heavier. But if another person wakes up and says, "Today I choose to look for what's good," suddenly they notice the kindness of a stranger, the sunlight peeking through the clouds, or the small victories at work. Same world, two different focuses, two different realities. So ask yourself right now, what am I consistently focusing on? Because whether you realize it or not, that focus is building your tomorrow. Now you might be thinking, but what about the negative thoughts I can't control? That's a fair question. The truth is, we all have negative thoughts, but focus isn't about never having them, it's about what you choose to give energy to. You might have a passing negative thought, but the moment you dwell on it, replay it, and give it emotional weight, that's when it starts creating momentum. Think of thoughts like birds flying overhead. You can't stop them from flying, but you can stop them from building a nest in your hair. So how do you shift focus? Start small. The easiest way is through gratitude. When you take just a few moments to focus on what's already working in your life, you're rewiring your brain to see abundance instead of lack. Gratitude acts like a magnet. It pulls in more things to be grateful for. Another way is visualization. When you take time to imagine and emotionally experience the life you want, your subconscious begins to accept it as real. And once your mind believes it, your actions start aligning to bring it into existence. That's why athletes use visualization before big games. It primes their focus and programs their mind for success. And here's the part that most people overlook. Focusing on what you want doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means training your mind to see beyond current limitations. If you're broke, it doesn't mean you pretend you're not. It means instead of obsessing over the lack of money, you shift your focus to opportunities, skills, and ideas that can create money. That shift alone changes your emotional state from hopeless to resourceful. Think about the stories of self-made entrepreneurs, inventors, and creators. Most of them started with nothing but an idea and focus. They didn't get there by dwelling on what they didn't have. They got there by focusing on what was possible and refusing to let their attention drift toward fear for too long. But let me tell you this, focus takes discipline. We live in a world full of distractions: social media, news, negativity, comparison traps. Every day, your focus is being pulled in 100 directions. If you don't take control of it, the world will choose your focus for you, and usually it chooses fear, doubt, and lack. So part of mastering attraction is mastering your attention. Guard it. Direct it. Protect it. And here's a secret: the universe responds to clarity. If your focus is scattered, one day you want this, the next day you want that, you're sending mixed signals. But when your focus is clear, when your intention is strong, and when your emotions are aligned, things begin to line up in ways that feel almost magical. Now, I want you to really think about this. Every great achievement in history began with someone focusing on a possibility that didn't yet exist. Airplanes, electricity, space travel, technology, all of it was once an idea someone dared to focus on. And while others said, "That's impossible," they kept their attention locked in until the impossible became reality. So the next time you catch yourself saying, "Why does this keep happening to me?" stop and ask instead, "What have I been focusing on?" Because life is always reflecting back to you the energy you're dwelling on. The beautiful part is, you can shift your focus anytime. You can't control everything that happens to you, but you can control what you give your attention to. And by doing so, you can redirect the entire course of your life. So let me leave you with this challenge. For the next 7 days, pay close attention to where your focus goes. Write it down if you have to. Notice when you're focusing on problems and deliberately shift to solutions. Notice when you're focusing on lack and shift to gratitude. Notice when you're focusing on fear and shift to faith. Do this consistently, and you'll be amazed at how quickly your outer world begins to mirror your inner focus. Because remember this simple truth: what you focus on, you attract. Focus on problems, you'll attract more problems. Focus on blessings, you'll attract more blessings. Focus on growth, and life will open doors you never knew existed. Let me share with you a powerful story that shows this principle in action. There was a young man who dreamed of starting his own business. But every time he thought about it, his focus went straight to all the reasons it wouldn't work. "I don't have enough money. I don't know the right people. What if I fail?" And guess what? He stayed stuck for years, working jobs he hated, feeling frustrated and watching others succeed. But one day, he made a simple shift. Instead of focusing on the obstacles, he began asking himself every morning, "What's one step I can take today to move closer to my dream?" That question changed everything. His focus went from fear to possibility, and within 2 years, he built a business that gave him freedom. It wasn't luck, it was focus. Here's another example you might relate to. Have you ever noticed how people who constantly complain about being unlucky always seem to attract more bad luck? And the people who are always optimistic, even when facing challenges, somehow attract opportunities, supportive friends, and good breaks. It's not that life favors some people more, it's that their focus tunes them into completely different frequencies. One person is tuned into lack, the other is tuned into possibility. And just like a radio station, you can't hear the music of abundance if you're stuck on the channel of fear. Now, let's go deeper for a moment. Science has shown that our thoughts literally change the wiring of our brains through something called neuroplasticity. When you focus on stress every day, you strengthen the neural pathways that make stress your default. But when you focus on gratitude, love, and opportunity, you strengthen the pathways that make optimism and confidence your natural state. In other words, your brain becomes what you repeatedly focus on. And it doesn't stop there. Your focus also influences your body.